Okay, thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us today on this webinar, Why Mental Health Matters. Due to the content of this conversation, people may feel triggered. We want everyone to take care of themselves, and if at any point you don't feel able to stay in the webinar, then please close it down, take some time for yourself. You'll all be sent in the recording. In the chat, there's a link to some websites and to some help. I'm going to put something in there myself now. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm Sam Candy. I'm the CEO of Candy Consulting and Events. We organise events around sustainability and social responsibility. But today, my reason for organising this webinar is a lot more personal, and it's hard for me to talk about. 2 weeks ago, my best friend Jenny took her own life. I shared her story on LinkedIn, which caused a huge reaction. Trying to hold it together here. I wasn't expecting the 2 million views it got, but I wasn't surprised to see so many people that felt the same as Jenny did. Jenny felt that the world was against her. She felt she wasn't good enough, that she wasn't accepted, that she was draining, that she wasn't valued, that she drove people mad, that she thought she didn't deserve love, and that she was a burden. She wasn't any of those. And I told her every day, as her family and friends did, how much I adored her and loved her. Jenny was the most beautiful, kind, caring, funny, capable, clever, driven, hardworking, passionate, adventurous woman that I knew. She lit a room up when she walked in, and she was the life and soul of the party. The day before Jenny took her life, she told me that she was okay. She was going to get back to the gym, back to her skipping and cold water dipping. She was starting a new job, and she had so much to live for. She had a loving and supporting family and so many friends that cared about her and that loved her dearly. But she still decided to end her unexplainable pain. I decided to do this webinar in memory of Jenny and to try and help the thousands of others that reached out to me and that are struggling right now. Mental health should be spoken about often. It should not be a subject that people are ashamed to bring up. Today, we're going to delve in deeper. I want to thank all of my panelists for joining me at such short notice. Unfortunately, Rowan's not able to join us as he's unwell, but very kindly, Claire Neal, Head of Workplace at Mental Health UK, has been able to step in. I'm going to pass over to you for a bit and take a breath. Let's have an introduction, and let's start with you, Bhavna.
Absolutely. Am I live? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bhavna. I'm a psychotherapist, clinical supervisor, a coach, and I've been doing this for the last 25 years. I've worked with 17,500 people. And I reached out to Sam because I lost my best friend to suicide in 2018. And it was a very, very big shock. So Sam, thank you for having me.
Good to have you here. Richard, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Yeah, my name is Richard Collins, and I run a global accreditation scheme for social responsibility, which includes the 4 pillars of environment, workplace, community and philanthropy. And of course, within the workplace and community pillars, we look very much at the impact of mental health and well-being, both at home and in the workplace.
And Nick?
Yeah, good afternoon. My name's Nick Thorley. I'm the contracts manager or production manager, as we like to know it, for Taylor Wimpey. I got involved with mental health, I don't know, about 5 to 6 years ago. And unfortunately, I lost my brother-in-law through suicide in November last year. So it's quite a raw thing as well, but doing everything I can within our business to try and get the awareness around that as well.
Thanks for being here, Nick. And Matt, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, everybody. And thanks, Sam, as well, for organising this. Really appreciate it. I know we've been speaking the last week or so, but I just wanted to start by sort of showing this, which says sometimes it's all right not to be all right. So please do believe that, everybody. It's absolutely fine to have bad days, but it's not all right to keep it inside and not talk about it with others. And I want to make that really clear. My name is Matt Holman. I am quite well known in the travel industry, I guess. I talk a bit about mental health in the travel industry. travel well-being, but my company really is focused on delivering as much conversation around mental health as we can. That's why this sign is behind me. That's why everything I do focuses on mental health. Personal experience, I lost my job very suddenly 6 years ago, wasn't expecting it. It created its own challenges mentally for me, and then I ended up in this world of mental health and well-being. But also what I want to share with you is something that is very personal to me, which is my own private life, the things that we don't often share. Some people will know this already, but I have a daughter who is very unwell with mental illness. She has been struggling for 4 years. In October of 2019, she attempted suicide for the first time. She is still with us, thankfully, but she is in hospital. She's still in suicidal crisis at the moment. She does attempt to take her life every other day, which is for us obviously a roller coaster of emotions and journeys that we're going through. But I talk openly about it because I want people to know we're all going through different things, different experiences, and we often don't see these things about our colleagues, our friends, and the people around us. And I just wanted to be open and honest with you. I always tell this story to people. I'm okay talking about it, of course, but every day is another day where we keep going and hope that we're going to get through and everything else. So thank you, Sam, for inviting me. Appreciate it.
And thanks for sharing that and for being with us today. And finally, Claire.
Hi, thank you, Sam. I'm Claire Neal, Head of Workplace Mental Health at the charity Mental Health UK. Like many of you, I saw Sam's post on LinkedIn, and so I'm really grateful to be here. Very keen to talk about particularly workplace mental health, because it's where a lot of us spend our lives, and workplaces do have a duty of care to support us, and we all have mental health. I think that's the important thing to say. It's not just something that happens to some people, so it's relevant whatever end of the spectrum you're on, and we change that regularly. So thanks for having me today.
Okay, so I know people are here for different reasons. Some people are suffering personally. Some people are trying to do more in their company, and some people are here just to be able to support others around them. We're going to cover each of those sections, and there is a lot to get through. So if we do run over and people need to go, please note that the recording will be sent to everyone in the coming days. We're going to go through each of the sessions, and if everyone doesn't mind saving the questions till last. I can't see, I'm not focusing on the chat, I'm focusing on the panelists and the questions. So I'll have a look at the a bit later at the questions, if you can post those at the end. But I want to start with those that are personally suffering. Bhavna, let's start with you. What can those suffering with mental health help? How can people help themselves a bit more?
Okay. The first thing to identify is all of us going through life will experience mental health issues at some point. So there is no shame in experiencing that. I'm not sure we've got feedback going on.
We have got a bit of feedback. If you can come a little bit closer.
Okay. So that's the first thing. And because of everything that's going on the last few years, it's incredibly important that we take care of ourselves. Okay, and part of that is to identify what's going on for you. How are you being impacted by it? You may notice that you haven't got the capacity to give as much as you might have done to family, friends, others, so you might withdraw and conserve energy. Make a list. How are you feeling? Get it out on paper, concretize it, so that you can identify what is pertinent and what is staying with you for a long time. Some issues are fleeting, others are on a constant level. Okay, so identify what's going on, make a list, and make a list of what you feel when you feel normal. What is your normal status, all right? And compare how different you're feeling at the moment. Okay, ask yourself this: what has happened in your life to make you feel this way? All right, you may wake up one day feeling a little bit worse for wear, but if this is an injury situation, what's happened? Has there been a critical situation in your life Have you broken up from a relationship? Have you broken up, you know, a family relationship? Okay. Have you lost your job?
Mm.
What's happened to make you feel this? All right. Is it something, you know, have you been triggered by watching something or talking to somebody or overhearing something, and it's triggered an old memory, a childhood memory? Okay, so when we list things down, it really helps us to identify and concretize what's going on. Okay. The other thing is, make a list of the people that you can turn to for support. Absolutely essential. All right, identify those people, you know, your ride or die buddies, okay, who will be there no matter what. Yeah, if you can find the strength, reach out to them, drop them a text. I'm not feeling 100%. May I please come? Okay. If you have a friend or a family member, anybody that you know who is off kilter or has gone off radar, check up on them, please.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Absolutely essential.
Thank you. Matt, do you have anything to add here?
Well, I think, you know, the first thing is to just pause, you know, just to take a break and try and to try and understand exactly what's going on and what's happened. You know, it's very difficult, isn't it? And especially when we're going through that grief cycle, to accept that anything has changed. So taking time and being kind to yourself, you know, I think that is really critical in all of these thoughts. Is, you know, we try to fix things quickly. We try to find the magic solution that says it's all okay again, but you know what, it's not, and we need to accept that and just sort of learn to deal with that. And what I would always say is, sorry, I'm getting a lot of feedback. I don't know where that's, I'm not sure if that's on your computer, Sam. It might be coming from you. You just mute yourself in there. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better, hopefully. So, you know, so really what I would say is we can only deal with today. That's the reality, isn't it? So, you know, we get up today, we go again, and I hope, and this is the dream and the ambition I always have with my daughter is, you know, I hope today's going to be a good day, and I just keep that hope and I hold that close to me, which is it's going to be a positive day. And when we get negative moments or distress or things that we have to deal with, we'll work with that and we'll come through that together and support each other. But it is just about taking the time to breathe. I think that's really important, and you know, and take notice of what's going on, because there will be a lot of changes, and it's not a quick fix.
I put a link in the chat earlier. I don't know if I can, there we go. I'm going to share it again. And on that link, there are lots of places you can get help. But Matt, can you, you're a Samaritan. Please tell us a little bit more about that, and what other support there is out there.
Yeah, of course. So, you know, I didn't want to cover that at the beginning in my introduction, to tell people that I am a Samaritan, although I do openly tell people I'm a Samaritan. I'm very proud to be a Samaritan. But what I want to do is just sort of dispel a bit of a myth, because when Sam and I had this original conversation a week or so ago about this webinar, WebEx, whatever it is, we were talking about Samaritans, and it was the thought that a lot of people still think of Samaritans as being old ladies, right? And I really want to dispel this myth, because I don't know if you can notice, but I'm a Samaritan, and I guess I'm falling into a category of I'm a, you know, middle-aged person. But there are many people across all areas of society who participate in Samaritans, who volunteer and just support conversations. Samaritans exist today just to have a safe space to hold somebody in that moment that they need to talk about whatever it is that's going on in their life. We're not there to fix things. We're not there to give advice. We're not there to tell people they're doing the wrong thing or the right thing. We're there very much just to provide that safe space to talk. And that is an open invitation to absolutely anybody. If you are struggling just with anything, even if you think it's a bit small, but it's making you feel uncomfortable mentally, please reach out. It's a free number to call. I know we've got internationals on this as well, so it's not always going to be as easy to access, but you do have local market resources supporting these conversations as well. So yeah, that's my little sales pitch for Samaritans. That's actually where this t-shirt comes from. It was a Samaritans t-shirt from about 2 years ago.
Well, they're very lucky to have you. At what point, Bhavna, what point should people reach out for professional help? You know, I have days where I'm feeling a bit low, and you know, I always reach out to friends and family and my partner, and talk about it often. But you know, what point should we all recognize for ourselves where we should say, hang on, I might need outside professional help?
Immediately. The second, you know, if you think of yourself on an equilibrium, everything's normal, fine, you know, life is going okay. once you start noticing that it's not going okay, it's off kilter, something doesn't feel right, reach out, speak with your friends, go and have a coffee, you know, go and have a coffee and put the world to rights. All right. Sometimes you just need an objective individual to come and say, hey, it's all good. It's all good. All right. In terms of reaching out for professional support, I would say immediately, my wish for the world is for people to reach out in a preventative manner. You know, like we go to the gym to take care of our health, physical health. We take multivitamins and we eat well to make sure that we prevent poor health. I want the world to do that with mental health because it's absolutely essential. You know, we'll speak about in a minute about the myths and the stigmas of reaching out for help. All right, but it's absolutely imperative. We've been through hell and back in the last 3 or 4 years. Okay, not only with the pandemic, but everything that it has precipitated. I have worked with so many clients who have experienced bereavements through COVID. I lost my own dad to cancer while I was supporting clients going through bereavement. Okay, and also recovering from losing my friend through suicide. Okay, so I was getting to the edge myself in terms of my mental health and well-being. You know, and Matthew, thank you so much for sharing what you've shared, because when we say me too with mental health, it makes it less alien, less shameful, less stigmatized. We need to take shame away from saying, I'm not okay. You know, we are hunter-gatherers. We are not meant to be working 24/7. We're not machines. You know, we're humans. We should be hunting and gathering and sitting around the campfire under the stars, telling each other stories and making love, you know, because our bellies are full.
So it's so true. I never really thought about that, you know, I go to the gym and I keep myself fit, but I suppose there's no reason why I couldn't get mental health support in a professional way as well, you know, because if I'm up and down, it probably would keep me quite balanced. But you know, there's a stigma around saying that you have depression or people have depression. It can be, I know that it can be circumstantial. I think I've had circumstantial depression before, but you can get through it, right?
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, if I can please say, depression is such being used as such a huge umbrella term. Okay, and you know, we may experience this and we call it depression. The thing is, as I said before, we are not meant to be working 24/7. Okay, so when your mind is exhausted, when your soul is exhausted, when your body is exhausted from working and trying to, you know, keep that job, and then you go home and you've got issues at home, you know, caring for an elderly parent or an ill parent or an ill child, or, you know, issues with your partner, or if you live alone, then you've got the element of isolation. Okay, and we have lost that sense of community we had 30, 40 years ago, where you knew who your neighbors were, the doors were open and you could nip next door for a cup of tea. Right? We have become so incredibly isolated that we need to become aware of that. You know, we need to reach out. This is why, you know, for anybody, any organizations that are present today, love, empathy, and compassion needs to be the core of your business. Okay, because human beings work for you, not human doings. Okay.
Yeah. That's absolutely true. I haven't taken antidepressants before. I don't know if anyone has on the panel or does on the panel or wants to share what it's like, and is, you know, again, I think there's a bit of a stigma around, is that the right way to go, and is it gonna make you completely, you know, I think I've heard that it might make you really fuzzy, so I've steered away from it. But does anyone want to share or speak about if they know what it's like to take antidepressants? Matt, maybe, do you know someone that's...
I mean, I can step in there, Sam.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I did actually in my 20s, my mid-20s. I inexplicably, I don't know why, but I got very depressed. It took me a long while to work it out. I just kept on remembering when I went to sleep at night, because I was spiraling thoughts and I was never sleeping, so I had insomnia, that there was something wrong. This isn't normal, because you're sort of suckered into thinking that this is normal. This is what everyone's going through and no one else is moaning about it. So why should you moan about it? And one day I kind of thought, this is not right. So I kind of made an excuse to see the doctor, pretending I had a bit of a sore leg. And I went in there and I just fell apart and I said, this isn't right, is it? And so I took some antidepressants, and I didn't think about the effect of the antidepressants in terms of anything else other than getting better. And 2 or 3 weeks later, one morning I woke up and it was like I was a completely new person. And I was able to step back and look at the day behind me and think, God, I was really poorly. I was really ill. I hadn't realized how I'd gradually walked into this. I've no reason why it happened. I'm a very optimistic and person. I never had a recurring bout of it. The only thing that the antidepressants did is that when I came off, there was a little bit of a delayed side effect, but nothing serious. I know different people have different experiences, but for me, it was creating clarity, and I'll never forget that experience, because it really woke me up to the difficulty that you can have in recognizing depression in the first place, because I think a lot of people live with it without even knowing that it's there and think it's just part of normal life. So for me, it was a good step. I'm lucky because I was somehow found the strength to put my hand up and ask for help, and a lot of people can't do that. And so I'm grateful that I did do that, and it's been a life lesson for me.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And I think that's so important that actually people go and have the conversation with your doctor. I know it's been really hard over the last 2 years to get an appointment. You can speak to people online now, but just reach out, because you might be living in a life that you don't need to live in, that there could be a solution around that. Thank you, everyone.
Sorry, Sam, just before you move on from that,
Matt.
can I just point one thing? And I'm just reading some of the comments that people are putting in, and everybody, and what it really represents is the reality that says everybody has their own interpretation of what medication is different. Medication means to them, and what they would use it for, and how it would be, supporting them. So it's very interesting if anybody's reading the chat to see sort of some of the observations that others are sharing, or the realities of their perspective. So thanks
for pointing that out. And I just want to add, for me personally, I've always struggled with my mental health, and some of the things that I do, I now meditate, I listen to podcasts, I always speak to friends and family. I definitely get outside if it's feeling too much. Every time I've gone outside, I've always felt a bit better after a walk. I know that's not easy for everyone, and I know that people are really, really struggling, but some of the things and exercise as well is so important to put some kind of structure into your day as well. But thank you, everyone, and sorry that I can't see the chat, and please, if any of the other panelists see some things in the chat, please bring them out, because I'm trying to keep track of the time and everything else as well. But
sorry, please. Interrupting you. Can I add to that while we're on the antidepressant?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to say antidepressants are not right for everyone. Okay, I was signed off after extreme trauma at work when I worked as a counsellor in London for a massive company, and dealing with some horrific calls, going through a lot in my own personal life. I was being catfished and I didn't know. Okay, and there were days when I would leave work and stand at the train station and wait for the next train, and with the intention of walking in front of it. Okay, I was signed off, I was given antidepressants, and they kept me awake for 3 days and nights. So they didn't work for me. Okay, so please, if you're struggling, Okay, very, very important to feed that back to your GP and let them know what's going on. All right, and they can look at different types of antidepressants, different medication to support you, but also please consider therapy. All right, if you've got stuff going on, like I mentioned earlier, okay, or some major critical situation has happened for you, it may knock you over if you're feeling down already. All right, go and speak with somebody, have an objective listening ear, and have that, give yourself the gift of that space, that objective space where you don't have to worry about protecting somebody's feelings or not saying and biting your tongue. Okay, so sometimes it's about getting the right medication, but also getting the right therapies and support. You know, and the other thing, you know, which very, very important, write things down, journal, use journaling as a tool to help yourself. Okay,
Yeah.
because by writing, what happens is the chemical signature that the trauma is encoded in, as you write, it organically changes, and there are proven studies for this.
Thank you. Thank you, Bhavna. I think that's all very important. I'm trying to fit everything in here, and I just want to move on to the next session. And just to let everyone know, we will send links and everything in a follow-up email to everybody that's registered. But I want to talk now a little bit about what organisations, what companies can do, and how companies should be responding to their employees with mental health. Richard, maybe you want to talk a little bit about some of the things that companies should be doing as a company that is doing good.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. And I think Bhavna touched on a little bit of this earlier on. We had a brief chat, but you know, the last 2 years have been very difficult and have woken us all up. People talk about the new normal, and I kind of think that perhaps the pandemic has reintroduced us to an old normal when we actually had time for each other. We've got so sucked up into very fast-paced digital lifestyles that we've kind of almost blinkered ourselves to the needs of others around us. And we've now coming out of a pandemic, and we have this appalling war in the Ukraine going on, and it's relentless and it impacts on us. We are like sponges and we suck this all in. So I think we all find it very difficult, and I've got no doubt that the next pandemic, for want of a better word, is going to be around mental health and well-being in the workplace as much as it is at home. And I think there is this attitude that when we leave our home, we leave all this stuff behind us and we go to work, and work doesn't have the capacity to embrace these conversations and these issues. And I think what we've seen is a certain dramatic increase in businesses bringing in kind of 24/7 counselling on behalf of their staff to address that. And I think it's very important that businesses and organisations of all sizes look at questioning the issue around mental health at the recruitment stage, so that we can have those conversations in a safe space that accommodates that individual's needs if they are struggling as a carer, or struggling with depression, or struggling with bereavement, or whatever it might be, that business and organisation can build capacity to support that person. Because by doing that, you're just going to build advocacy, and you're going to build better engagement, and you're not going to have that lack of understanding. Why is that person leaving early on a Friday every week, and punishing them for that, when in fact they're going home because they've got a struggle with a parent or a loved one with dementia, and that's a burden on their life, in addition to struggling with that, but also the pressure at work. So I think it's very important that businesses open up the corridors of conversation to allow, in spaces that are safe, to allow people to have that, to discuss those needs, and for the business to have a policy in place that addresses that mental health and wellbeing agenda.
Yeah, I totally agree. Claire, we were speaking earlier about this. Do you want to share a bit more about what companies should be doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just to start off with a statistic, business in the community did some research last year that showed that 41% of people have experienced poor mental health symptoms caused or worsened by work in the last year. So, 41%, if that had been that number of people had been physically harmed by their workplace, there'd be an outcry, and it's this, it's a whole other conversation, but putting physical and mental health on an equal footing is something that I think we need to move closer to. I think picking up on Richard's point about opening up conversations, line managers have a really important role to play, and more organisations are talking about empathetic leadership and the importance of those soft skills that used to be sort of brushed aside a little bit, and now there's more talk about recruiting managers who have those people skills, the ability to have an authentic relationship with your staff, because the days of leaving your problems at the door of the workplace are long gone. I mean, I've worked in the employee assistance programme field for about 20 years, and I remember speaking to a CEO of a company, this was 15 years ago, and we were about to launch this employee assistance programme, a counselling service, and he said, whatever you do, don't mention stress. Just don't mention stress. We don't want it on the leaflets, we don't want it in the presentations, because everyone will claim they're stressed. We didn't mention stress, but lo and behold, it was the highest number of stress calls from any organisation. So not talking about it only serves to sort of drive it underground. And so really, I think the most important thing is managers understanding that responsibility, and the organisations from the top down creating that open culture. It's okay to talk about mental health, train managers in how to have supportive conversations, make well-being check-ins at meetings genuine. How are you? How are you really? Because it's just, it is about this kind of culture shift, and that's what organisations need to do. And it needs to be not well-being, isn't about fruit bowls and Friday yoga. It's got to start it's got to go much deeper, and it's got to be a top-down approach.
Yeah.
And I think, just to back up what Claire was saying, because it's something I just think is important as well, is that if you don't have conversations about it, if businesses can't embrace this, and this could be schools, hospitals, lawyer firms, factories, it doesn't matter, the business, the culture, the sector, if those conversations aren't had, then you create a sense of isolationism, and that sense of isolationism drives that sense of mental health and depression and anxiety even further, because if you're not embracing it, you're keeping people on the outside of the conversation. And I think that's very toxic. So it's about including people in conversations, so you're not isolating them, and that they feel part of the business, they're part of the culture, and can contribute to it. And actually, we know from the experience of people on the panel, and just looking at the chat, which is absolutely amazing, that through our own experiences, we can so much help each other by talking about our frailties and our difficulties and the way we deal with things. So it's not just about senior management, it's not about it's about it's from the ground up as well. It's about people at work having the freedom to talk to each other about about themselves, and to help each other and support each other in that way as well.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to bring you in, Nick, here, because from our conversation the other day, I thought that the way that you the things that you put in place at Taylor Wimpey, and we talked a lot about the response that it's had. Do you want to share maybe some of the things that you do there?
Yeah, by all means. It's very much on the back of what Claire was saying before. I've been in this industry now for 33 years in management within construction, and obviously construction is it's got the highest suicide rate in any industry. It far exceeds it, and it's always been there. I think before it's always had the macho placement with it, that every male that was in the industry, because it was so predominantly male industry, they can get over anything, they come on in, do the work, macho builder, off they go. It's now become a lot more diverse. There's thankfully a lot more females coming into the industry, and the mindset is changing a lot. And I've noticed that a lot, which is why I got myself involved in mental health, and there's a lot more empathy that's being brought into it. Whereas the site manager, when I first started coming into it as a 17-year-old, you'd have a laugh and a joke, and if you weren't laughing and joking the following day, it's like, he's a grumpy old, and that's it. Nowadays, it's the thought process is, why isn't he the same as he was yesterday? And then the questions start getting asked. There's a lot more broader spectrum coming into it. Thankfully at Taylor Wimpey, they do a very, very good service. We've now increased in the number of mental health first aiders so that we've got, I think we've got about 55 within our business. I know there's still a long way to go. We've got 24 regions, we've got 6,500 employees, but it's getting it out onto all the sites. So the aim is that every site will have a mental health first aider. We've just come up with, well, I came up with last weekend, new hire visits. So it's just gotten about do not suffer in silence, talk to me. All the managers will be having those, or any first aiders will be having those on the sites. We've got signing in places. Anybody can come up to you. There's employee assistance program, which is exceptional. 24/7, 365 days a year. People do use it. People come to me. I advise them to go and speak to them if I can't help them out. We've got apps on there as well, which is a Thrive app, which is, again, is a mental health and wellbeing app. Again, for all employees, anytime they want to go through it. We've got Babylon as well, which is another app that has been brought in, which is like a GP. So basically, if you suddenly say, I'm not feeling too good today, if you don't want to go to the one, you don't want to go to the other one, you can actually go onto this app on your phone to say, right, I want a doctor's appointment. And you can speak to someone, you can choose, I want a female, I want to speak to them at 9:30 tonight. And off it goes. It is absolutely incredible. I think that the stigma amongst construction now is slowly starting to go away. We've still got the problems. We've still got the highest suicide rate. I think there was, last year, they actually turned around and said there was 78% of construction professionals that contemplated suicide last year. Now, when you're thinking the rate, we're 3 times more susceptible to suicide than the actual average of the highest industry. So it's not good. They're turning around saying that 1 in 4 construction people will also suffer from some form of mental health issue throughout a year. So we've all gone through a big enough problem with the pandemic. We're all coming out the other side, we thought. Then there's the worry over fuel, there's the worry about electric. I'm getting people now approach me saying, I've got anxiety problems because I don't know if I can afford electric tonight. Or they're all hearing about the increase in the prices, the gas and everything else. Everyone is getting worried, and it's only natural. I think everybody will be suddenly turning around and saying, are we going to go back to the COVID time where everyone's going to be having to work from home a lot more because fuel and everything else and getting around places. Unfortunately, construction, we can't, but we'll just have to tackle that when it comes around to it and see, hopefully things will get themselves a bit better. But no, the industry is becoming a lot better.
Yeah, you also do this thing that I thought was great, the time to talk, which, you know, again, it's like bringing the discussion in. Do you want to say a bit more about that? And I think other companies can try something like that. Yeah,
that was something that came about last year when the actual Time to Talk first roadshow was getting promoted. So I saw it that was on there, so I thought to myself, right, I'll do something at work, because as I said, we've got 50 to 60 mental health first aiders in the business. I try and push. We've got about 8 or 9 within our region, our northwest region. So we've actually got it's not an app, it's a system on where every time you get somebody who approaches you, you make a log of it. I'm not saying the names or anything else like that. Is totally professional, and there's no names or anything else given out. You just turn around and say, got somebody not very happy, and it says, do you need any help? Do you need any assistance? Have you guided them or anything like that? So we did that, and it turns out that one person within the whole of the business, out of these 65 people, is dealing with one person in South London, and the other 37 people that I've registered are on mine. I deal with every one of them. So I deal with 37 people at the moment that have got problems that have found me approachable. Don't know why. And so they call me up, I speak to them at night time, speak to them in the evenings, go around the houses, do what I can, assist them and push them on wherever they need any assistance, where it's out of my remit, and we do everything to help. So the Time to Talk thing was like basically turn around. I spoke to a few of them and said, shall we all get together, have a chat? You don't have to have your cameras on, we'll do it on Teams. So if any of you get upset, you're not gonna have to worry about it. And yeah, I had my camera on, no one else did. So I was telling them all about my brother-in-law, and yeah, became very emotional, and I did get very upset, but I carried on, and it sort of opened up a lot more people. We had about 46 people on this first one that came on the first one interested, and I've now reckoned that the next one, which is going to be this month, I've got a date. I haven't got the date in the calendar. Sam said I think she's going to try and pop on and do a little talk. It's just people. It's just an open forum for people to talk. We've got about 150 signed up that want to come on, and that's just from within our business. I'm going to put it out on LinkedIn and offer it out to anybody, because obviously I've got a lot of people that follow me through construction, and put it out to say, look, anybody can come in on it. And I'll put it in. If I can help one person to talk to one person to change their mindset, it's a win-win for me.
Exactly.
The first one I did, I actually got in contact with a gentleman called Danny Scalthorpe. Now, he played for St Helens Rugby League. He was captain for them, and went on to captain Great Britain several times, and obviously authored, done a few books throughout his life, and he's now fronting up a company called State of Mind, which I'm not promoting or anything else like that. I'm not, otherwise I'd have my Coke can on the side and Mars bar and everything else. But he's a tremendous bloke, and he came on. He was actually at the Liverpool Women's Hospital doing a talk, helping them. So just a charity organisation, and he spared me 10 minutes and came on. And several years ago, when he was playing for Bradford Bulls, he got a nasty injury. They could see he was going to be out for some time. He ended up getting sepsis and everything else through it. And it was years and years ago, and they were able to just go rip up his contract and cast him away. He lost his family home, and contemplated twice in going to a car park, and took all the tablets and the medication he was on at the time for his illness, and he was contemplated taking his own life. Eventually turned his life around, and he said he's in a better place now through going around speaking to people. He's actually got a brain tumor now as well, and he said, that's the last of my worries. I don't even think about that. I know that's going to take me one day, but he said, what I'm doing now, going around helping people, is more satisfying now than picking up every trophy he had to do when he was playing for rugby. But incredible bloke, and he's going to come on again this month. So it's good.
That's great. That's really good. And look, I'd say, Nick, that people are reaching out to you at work because you're empathetic. And, you know, I got that when I spoke to you. You really care. And, you know, showing people that side is, I don't think it's a bad thing to be empathetic and to be caring about your staff. And in the long run, you're going to do better as a business if you are helping and supporting your staff, and if you give them that time and care about them. So, you know, thanks for sharing all of that. I just want to ask one more question in this section, and anyone, if anyone wants to answer, where do you think there's going wrong with companies? Matt, maybe you want to start off. I know you work with a lot of companies and do some training, but where do you see this conversation going wrong?
I'm not sure it's going wrong. I think it's just that we don't quite know how to have the conversation yet. So I think there's a difference between it going wrong, having the wrong conversations. Actually, the worst thing is we're not having conversations. So that's where I would sort of try to get people to focus on. I think the biggest challenge we've got, and it sort of links into something, I think we had a question, it was prepped from a bit later, but I do want to cover it here, is this reality that says we are naturally conditioned to think negatively. We are naturally thinking negatively about every situation, every event. So it's very difficult sometimes to see those positives. And in workplaces, when we talk about mental health and we talk about managers, and this is one of the observations I've seen, they don't recognize when they're having conversations of mental health until somebody's struggling. So when somebody comes to me and says, I'm really struggling, that's a conversation of mental health. And it's not. Actually, we have conversations of mental health all the time. When somebody's happy and they're doing well and they're looking after themselves and they've got things to look forward to, that's positive. But when somebody is struggling and they're tired and they're feeling overwhelmed or overstressed, that's the negative part. And what we've got to try to do is, for every individual human, and this is the big challenge for all of us, is to learn what happiness looks like to that person and what unhappiness looks like to that person, and find out what the change is, because that's ultimately what we're looking for. So the conversations really need to start in a positive mind to understand when things change to the negative. That's how I think workplaces need to evolve. Stop labeling mental health as a bad thing. Stop putting it on the marketing machine of it's all terrible and here's all the solutions that we've got for you. Give people the support early, give them the encouragement to talk, and actually we can all do positive things. That's my little piece to it. I hope that helps.
Thank you. No, it really does. I'm going to have to move on to the final section because we are getting short of time. This has just gone so quickly. But I want to talk about, if you're working in a company and other people around you might be suffering, how can we support our colleagues, our loved ones, the ones that are around us? What are the early signs that we could maybe recognise when someone is struggling, Bhavna?
Absolutely. Can I just very quickly tag on to what Nick was saying? We had a lovely conversation earlier in the week about this event. One thing that came up was, and something that Claire said as well, if possible, try and make non-managers and non-leadership into mental health aides, because not everybody wants to approach a director or a manager for fear of ending up with a P45. Okay, if they highlight that they've got issues going on. Okay, but how can we support those around us? Number one, be open and honest. I can see you're not 100%. You've not been yourself recently. What's going on? Put it on the table. Okay, because we live in a Western culture where and especially in Britain, stiff upper lip, swallow whatever's going on and just get on with it, head down. All right, we are no longer able to have that luxury. Let's ask each other, hey, how are you doing? And Matt said this earlier, how are you really doing? Okay, would you like to talk about it? We often ask, how are you? Fine. And off they go. What's going on? I want to know. Would you like to talk about it? It may not be appropriate right now. Let's go and have a coffee at some point. Let's have lunch at some point. Let's go for a walk at some point. Yeah. So that person knows that you mean it, and then follow it up a couple of days later. Right? Don't say it or offer it and then let it go. Follow it up, harass them. And I say that wholeheartedly because I emailed my friend on the 12th asking her, when are we meeting up? You promised you'd get back to me. She emailed me back saying, I'll be in touch with you in the next couple of days. On the 14th, she was gone. Okay, while I was waiting for her to come back to me.
Yeah.
But that is still outstanding. So, how can I help? What can I do? What do you need within reason? Okay. Here are some resources for you. Collect resources. We've put links up in the chat. Copy them down. Keep them in your wallet. All right. Give them, I'm here when you want to talk. Be present in their space. Okay. Be a fly on the wall. So if they don't want to talk, if they don't reach out, get in their face politely. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
And, finally, if you don't have all the answers, physically present, sitting with them, even in silence, and offering a tissue is a very big step.
Thank you. Claire, we were talking earlier actually about when somebody goes off sick and it's always been someone sitting there and then all of a sudden they're not, or in the pandemic you don't know that they're not sitting there, and there's always been this, well, let's not say anything, let's not talk about it. But do you think that we can do more to support our colleagues at work when they've gone off sick?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, there is no rule to say that an employer can't contact an employee when they're on sick leave. And I know from working as a counsellor at an employee assistance programme, we heard many people who were struggling because they were upset because their manager hadn't reached out. But I also know that managers say, I don't want to interfere. So I would absolutely say if somebody's going off sick, if you can, try and agree a level of contact that would work for both of you. And if you do make contact, if they've gone off with work-related stress, for example, make that contact sensitively, and be aware as a manager why you're doing it. You're doing it for their welfare. you're not checking up on them. And I think it's really important that when you do reach out, you check that it's okay and you make it clear, this is just me checking you're okay, you know, because we care about you. You know, it goes back to everything that's come up, this humanity, this kindness, this human to human relationship. So yes, I would say it is important, and allow that employee to tell you if they don't want to speak to you, because, you know, if it is stress and a conversation with the manager is going to exacerbate that, then that's important. Can I pick up again? I know there's so many things I could talk about, but just I was talking about line managers and their responsibility to check in and all of this stuff. And Nick, what you were saying, this, you know, it's really wonderful to hear managers that do care, but I would also say, you know, who looks after managers, and it is really important as a manager to look after yourself, you know your boundaries and understand. I know you mentioned the EAP, Nick, but most EAPs will take managed referral. So if you're speaking to someone and you feel that what they're bringing to you is too much for you to handle, don't feel it's your responsibility. It's never your responsibility on your own. Talk to the EAP and say, I'm really concerned about someone in my team, and have a kind of practice conversation of what do I need to do. And then you can sit with that employee and say, would you like some counselling? I can make a referral and a counsellor can call you. And it just gives you a little bit more support to know that you've passed them on to a professional. You can still carry on being a great manager, but knowing that they're having that professional help, I think is an important balance, really.
Yeah, that's right. I've got another list as well. Obviously, those are the ones that we do as a business, but I've obviously got the Lighthouse. I've got various contacts at the Lighthouse, which is obviously the construction charity. I've got Mind as well, so I've got quite a few different ones. If I don't just suddenly say, right, try this one, I've got a list of numbers through the various different suicide prevention ones and everything like that. So I'm trying various different ones. So at least then I've got a list of numbers, say, let's try this one, let's try this one. And then I'll speak to them and say, right, do it with me if you want to. I'll be there if you want to in the background. If not, you have a go. Come and do it during work time. Doesn't matter. Come into the office if you want the privacy. I'll sort you out a meeting room. So at least I'm there for you. So we've got various different things like that. So no, I do know what he's saying about who looks after the manager, because I had my appraisal today from my boss, and he turned around and said, look, the whole business is seeing what you're doing and trying to achieve. And you're caring and looking after, and obviously you've got your own day job and you're speaking to people and you do everything else you're doing on top. But he said, and two of the directors turned around and said, who's looking after you? And I said, my wife. I'll open up to wife if I need. She turned around and said, I'm probably the world's worst, because I sort of like, yeah, zip, there you go. How's your day? Good? Yeah, fine. And that's about it. But when, I think it was when we lost my brother-in-law last year, obviously her side of the family were absolutely devastated, and it did really, really knock them. But I was, and it's wrong to say it because this is what I'm trying people not to do, I tried being that macho man and looking after my wife, my kids, and making sure they're okay. And this went on, and then it was probably about 2.5, 3 weeks after that, I was at the office, and the funeral had been, it was a couple of weeks afterwards, after the funeral, and I broke down in the office. And I went outside and I had to walk around in the car park and just got on the phone to the wife. And I admit, I was sat down on a piece of grassed area, sobbing like a baby, because I think it had all just built up, which I tell everybody, talk. It's easier to talk about it. And I did. And I spoke to the wife. I was on the phone. I was sobbing. And that release, it was like, I got home that night. We had another talk. I got upset again, because I think it was just everything just accumulating and bottling up. And it was the best thing I did. And even now I say to her, like she says, everything okay? Yeah, everything is really good. Or if not, she knows. And so it is. And I tell everybody, I said, you don't realise how good it is to actually talk about something. She'll still turn around and say, I still keep too much in, and try and keep it and zip and put it underneath a pillow and leave it for another day. But it's hard to change the habit of a lifetime, but it's getting everybody else to change as well, because that stigma is out there, especially in construction. As much as everyone says, it's still always going to have that stigma around it about being the macho industry. And it is slowly changing. I think the ethos and the way that the younger generation are coming through, although it's hard to get them to come through, they are actually a lot more sensitive. I think us as parents, and I'll hold my hand up and be probably the world's worst along with my wife, we wrap our children up in cotton wool too much nowadays. It starts from the house. Our house is fully insulated. There's not a bit of air that can get into it. There's not a bit there that can come out. Not like when I was younger and you stood in front of the fire to dry yourself off. And if you get too close, your backside's starting to burn. So things have changed so much nowadays that people are becoming more sensitive. And it's nice to see some of the younger ones that come up to me and talk to me, say, have a chat. And they do cry, and I'll cry with them. I'm probably one of these people that does. So
I had a really good thing the other day. I was watching, there's a documentary from Roman Kemp on suicide one, and his best friend had taken his own life, and he heard from these young lads that their friend had done the same, and now they ask if they're okay twice. So they say, are you okay? And then they say, are you really okay? And then, you know, because we all go around and say, hi, how are you? How you doing? Yeah, great. And it's like, yeah, great. It like just comes off the tongue. We don't really sort of say, hang on a minute, how really are you? How are you really doing? Talk to me. And I think that's it's such a great way to ask twice.
Sam, can I just add one piece to that? I just wanted to put on, because I always talk about this, but the difference between those 2 points of asking somebody how they are and how, you know, how they really are is time. It's time, because you need to invest a small amount, and it's only small amounts of time to listen. And that's the key to this. And for all of this, it's giving people that moment of time. You know, it really is so critical in all of these conversations. So I just wanted to put that onto there as well. So find the time to talk, people. That's why time to talk is a really important thing. You know, it really is. And it can be micro moments, but actually we don't listen because we're too busy and we're too caught up in our own space of, you know, everything else that's going on. So I just wanted to add that in there, Sam.
Thank you. I think, you know, look, we've got to the end of the hour. Claire, I think that you've got another meeting, you've got to go, but I do want to turn over to the chat and see if anyone has any questions for the panelists. It's the hour has flown by. We could go on for hours, no doubt. And, you know, I definitely will share some information with everyone that's attended, and just, you know, if anyone has any questions, I'm just having a look here in the chat, please post them again if you've already posted them.
Sam, while you're doing that, can I please add 2 very important points? Okay, we haven't spoken about the LGBTQ community, who are very, very important, very, very precious in terms of not being seen. Okay, and within that community, especially the trans community, has been vilified, and I have worked with clients who have had horrific experiences from colleagues at work. Okay, so it's very, very important indeed. If you have friends who are part of the community, please keep an extra special eye on them, especially if they're struggling. Okay. Secondly, Claire, on your point about employees being off sick, also, we need to be mindful of employees who are suspended. My experience of thousands of employees has been that they have been told that they are not allowed to contact anyone at work. And for the majority, their work colleagues may be their only social support. Okay, so by them being denied contact with their friends, they are creating a very nasty situation of isolation. Okay, so I just wanted to add that, please.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sam, because I've so enjoyed this, and I've got to go, but just on the back of that, absolutely anyone who is off work for a suspension, that should be given continued support, and most employee assistance programs will offer that support to somebody who has been temporarily suspended, or even if somebody has been made redundant, you know, there should be that continued support for at least 3 months afterwards, and it's important that that's imparted. But I just wanted to say thank you, and
thank you, Claire.
Enjoy the rest of your chat. Okay,
yeah, thank you. So we've got a couple of questions here. One person's asked, there was a mention of journaling to help lessen the weight of the world people experience with mental health challenges. Does anyone of the panels know what the percentage of men to women that actively journal, whether a particular gender sees greater success relief when practicing journaling? Does anyone have any facts or points on journaling?
I am crazy about journaling. I recommend it to all my clients as part of their therapy. I don't have stats, unfortunately, but I will say women are journal more frequently than men, although I have a lot of my male clients now journaling away. And it is incredibly powerful because it allows you that space. It makes you create space to sit down with a pen and paper. Okay, and if possible, please don't journal on your computer. You need to be, moving the muscle. All right, this is all neurobiological. It's very powerful stuff. Okay, Sophie asked earlier about research. Dr. James Pennebaker, and he's got YouTube videos. Okay, amazing person, and he's the one that's proven the power in the lab.
Okay, we'll share that with us and we'll share it in the email. Someone else has asked, some people say they need space when they're going through a difficult period, but how do you balance that need with effectively checking in on people and making sure they're not pushing others away? Anyone?
Ask them, okay, I've heard you need space. How much do you need space? I'm going to check in with you on such and such a day. Is that okay? All right, and check in anyway, out of your own offer of support.
I think I just wanted to add one other thing to that as well, if possible, which is, I think when somebody's struggling with a mental illness like depression wants to be left alone. Depression wants to be in the darkness. It doesn't want to be with people. So it is a real tricky balance, because if that's the thing that's driving the conversation, think of the depression, what the depression wants. Your friend wants contact. Your friend wants socialization. They want to stay connected, but the depression's trying to, excuse me, overwhelm them so that they don't get that. So we have to sort of learn how to address our friend and not the illness, and that is one of the challenges, definitely.
Yeah,
I think a pause speaks volumes. I think Barbara and I mentioned it earlier that it's nice just to comfort somebody, so you can have space. People don't necessarily want to be alone, but I think you can comfort in silence and support in silence, and that does create that sense of caring, but without being too intrusive in someone's moment in which they want to contemplate whatever thoughts they're going through. So I think there's always a balancing act, and I think people shouldn't be afraid to kind of to ask or to say, I need some space, or you've not been around for a little while, can I support you, can I help you, but in a way that's not aggressive or too intimidating, but in a way that shows that there's options, rather than kind of just not addressing it at all, which I think is the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that when you haven't heard from someone for a while and you haven't seen them maybe posting on their social medias, there's no harm in reaching out and just saying, look, I hope you're okay, sending you a hug or sending you love, and here for you if you need a chat, and reach out if you need anything. And it doesn't need to have any pressure as such, but I know if I haven't heard from some friends and then they get in touch, then it always it makes me feel good about myself that they've been thinking of me. We're at the end now. We've run over time. Someone has asked what's next for you all. Will there be other sessions? We will be doing some other things. There's a Responsible Futures conference coming up in June. I'll share more information about that. I will send an email out with the link to the recording, with the links that everybody has shared, and some other information on some of the other things we do. I also have a podcast. I've interviewed Matt before, and Richard before, and Bhavna, hopefully I'm going to be interviewing you too soon. And thank you so much for your time. Bhavna, I think you was going to end this session because, this has been very difficult for everyone, including myself, and I think you were going to take us through a containment exercise. So if anyone wants to stay, then please do, and if you have to go, thank you for your time and being with us. And Bhavna, I'm going to hand over to you.
Bless you. Thank you so much. The last thing I will say is send each other cards. It's a lovely surprise to get in the post. Okay. We've had a very tough conversation. We've had a difficult conversation. What I'd like to do is invite everyone who'd like to take part. It's an invitation to please, if you can, put your feet on the ground, close your eyes, become aware of where your hands are. Okay, and take a very nice, slow, deep breath. And as you breathe, just become aware of the air entering your lungs and your chest rising gently. And breathe out. And continue breathing deeply. Over the next few days, things may feel a little bit difficult. They may feel a bit strange. Please know that this is completely normal considering what we've been talking about. Be extra kind with yourself. Be extra gentle with yourself. Take time that you need, and you don't need anybody's permission to do so. Okay, so deep breath again. And as you breathe, bring your mind to your breath. Become aware of the air going through your nose and into your chest. Be aware of your chest rising and falling as you breathe. And let's all take a breath for 5 counts. And hold for 5. And slowly breathe out for 5. We have all traveled on a very deep journey today, and it will have brought up a lot of mixed emotions as we have thought about our loved ones. And as you think of them now, send them love in your heart. They are there with you. They love you. And they know what you're going through. And gently take another deep breath. And as you breathe out, let go of that pain and heartache for a moment and be free. And as you breathe in again, breathe in some love for yourself. Send your heart some love. It has suffered much. Offer yourself gratitude for showing up today and every day. And as you do so, let's look at caring for ourselves this evening and over the weekend. Make a commitment to self-care over the next few days and coming weeks. How will you identify that you're not okay? What will you do, because it is in your control, to make sure that you become okay? Things will come up. It is normal. But know that you are not alone. We are all with you. We are all together, and we all ache because we loved them. Take a deep breath. Now find that quiet, peaceful place inside or outside. It could be your favorite beach or your favorite cafe, anywhere. And let's go there. Let's go to our safe space. And this is where we will set out our intentions for ourselves over the coming days and weeks. What one thing would you like to do to take care of yourself? Ask yourself, how do I want to go forward today? What do I need this evening? How can I have this need met? How will I take care of myself? I am taking responsibility for me. How will I show myself compassion, kindness, and love? And as you gently contemplate these questions, giving yourself permission to take care of yourself, take another richer, deeper breath, all the way down, as deep as it goes. And as you breathe out, let go of some more of the pain you've been holding inside. And as you breathe in, fill your being with love and with compassion. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Feel the ground under your feet pushing up and holding you gently. As we take a deep breath, we send out peace and love to all beings all over the world. Every heartache, every element of pain, we send it love and compassion. And as we do so collectively, know without doubt that it is traveling in ripples around the world to every heart that needs it today. And as we go forward, you are safe and all is well. Deep breath. Peace to all. And when you are ready, please open your eyes. Come back to the room. Wiggle your toes. And just ground yourself. All is well.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone. And for those that stayed for that. That was really beautiful. Thank you so much. Okay.
And my love to you, Sam.
Yeah, and to you too.
God bless.
Beautiful. Thank you, everyone.